You might not know it, but one company's technology has been used to build every electronic device you own. Your smartphone, your laptop, any IoT devices, and even your TV. And the most amazing part is, it's a company that you've most likely never even heard of. It's not Apple, it's not Google, and it's not even Samsung. It's a small European company that, until recently, had gotten barely any publicity. This company is so far ahead of its competitors that it has a true monopoly on the high end of its market. There's a category of machines needed to build the world's most advanced computer chips, and only this company can manufacture them. The results speak for themselves. Last quarter, when other chip companies reported declining sales and even weaker forecasts, it reported a $347 million increase in revenue and a $290 million increase in profit. The name of the company is ASML Holding. It's a Dutch semiconductor equipment manufacturer that practically owns the EUV lithography market. Its machines are indispensable for building modern computer chips, and their importance reaches up to the very pinnacle of modern life. Smartphones, laptops, even military technology. The US and China, the world's two leading nations, are both racing to achieve supremacy in computer chips, and this one company holds the key to the entire market. In this video, I will take a deep dive look at ASML Holding, the monopoly that owns the future. I will explore its origins, its vital role in the semiconductor industry, and how it ties into the geopolitical ambitions of the world's biggest countries. I'll show how the company impacts every single digital electronic device you own, from your car to your smartwatch. And finally, I'll reveal the secret of ASML's success that explains why no other company can touch it. But before we can understand ASML, we need to know a little bit about a growing geopolitical rivalry that will shape the world we live in the decades to come, and the computer chips at the heart of it. In May of 2019, then US President Donald Trump signed an executive order preventing US companies from selling chips to Huawei, China's biggest telecommunications company. Unlike many other Trump-era executive orders, the Huawei measure was swiftly implemented. Google immediately moved to cut business ties with the company, as did US chip makers like Micron Technology. The loss of Huawei's business cost Micron a large amount of revenue, which was part of the reason why its stock declined in 2019. US companies lost a lot of sales when selling to Huawei was banned. But Trump didn't back down, he doubled down. In 2020, his initial ban was followed up with a second ban of sales to Huawei, closing loopholes that Huawei used to get supplies from third parties. That was later followed up in 2022 by a series of moves by the Biden administration to limit chip sales to China. Now, think about this for a minute. You're Donald Trump. You campaign on being good for the economy. You brag non-stop about the stock market going up during your presidency. Basically, you want the economy to do well in order to improve your re-election prospects. Furthermore, as a businessman, you know a little bit about how the stock market works. You know that when bad news about a company is released, it tends to cause that company's stock to fall. Nevertheless, you go ahead and ban American companies from selling chips to China. Given that you're campaigning as an economic president, why would you do this? A cynic might say that Trump did this because he's incompetent, but it helps in these situations to assume that the person knows what they're doing. If you dismiss a person's actions as coming from incompetence, you miss the opportunity to understand their motives. That isn't to say that Donald Trump's decision to ban the export of chip equipment to China was right, but rather that there was a reason he did it, right or wrong. As for what that reason was, we can go straight to the horse's mouth. Shortly after implementing the export ban, a Trump official said that China using American chips may, quote-unquote, pose an unacceptable risk of diversion to military end use in the People's Republic of China. In other words, the chip ban was motivated by security concerns. The military, just like every other institution, is increasingly high-tech. Modern wars are as much about drones as they are about guns and tanks, and many of the most advanced weapons operate more or less autonomously. According to the online publication Data Economy, quote-unquote, drones and AI can be combined to monitor border areas, identify risks, and communicate threat information to the relevant reaction teams, improving military personnel's security during combat. There are other examples too. For example, the US company Boston Dynamics manufactures AI-powered robots with a variety of different use cases ranging from data capture to packaging to inspection. And if there's one thing that AI requires, it's computing power. If you've ever tested one of those AI-powered art generators, you'll have noticed that it sometimes takes a very long time to generate an image. That's because of all the processes the app has to go through to create the image you want. It has to interpret the prompt you entered, sort millions of pieces of data, decide which are and aren't relevant to what you asked for, and then deliver the finished image. To perform complex tasks, AI applications have to run trillions of operations per second. At this point, the best smartphone chips are performing between 11 and 15 trillion operations per second, and are just getting faster. It takes a lot to get all of that power on a chip that's not even the size of your little fingernail, and the country that controls all of this computing power will gain a massive upper hand in military, industrial, and economic relations. As it stands today, the semiconductor industry is pretty spread out across the globe. The biggest chip designer is Europe's ARM, the biggest manufacturer is Taiwanese, and the biggest users of advanced chips are America's big tech giants. No one country dominates the entire industry, but one country could: China. China is one of the few countries in the world that's positioned to have an entire chip industry within its own borders. It's spending massive amounts of money building chips at home and providing generous incentives to companies that do so. In the last 12 months, we've seen major chip announcements from Alibaba, Tencent, and the state-owned SMIC. These various chips are already creating economic value for Chinese companies, and they could have military applications as well. There's just one problem: equipment. To build the fastest chips, you need access to lithography systems. Lithography is a printing process that involves creating a two-dimensional image on a flat surface using chemical or photochemical processes. It's vital to manufacturing computer chips. As of today, China still does not have the ability to build advanced lithography systems in-house. It relies on foreign suppliers like ASML for the most advanced equipment. The country is trying to change that, and it's making some progress. But it's a long road to independence when it comes to chip equipment. ASML's machines are protected by a steel-reinforced wall of patents, suppliers, and trade secrets. Even if a company were to directly reverse engineer one of ASML's machines, getting all the components from the supply chain would be no easy task. ASML sources from thousands of individual suppliers, and it isn't eager to tell the world who they are. Because of these and other advantages, the company has been called a true monopoly, a firm that, thanks to its intellectual property and technological edge, faces little competition, at least on the very high end of its market. Other lithography companies exist, notably Japan's Nikon and China's Shanghai Microelectronics. However, they are far behind ASML on extreme ultraviolet, EUV for short, lithography. These are the kinds of machines used to build the world's most advanced chips. They are used extensively by SK Hynix, Samsung, Intel, and other chip companies that aim to build the fastest and best chips. Currently, the smallest chip process is 2 nanometers, in a chip designed by IBM. By comparison, the smallest process China has ever managed is 7 nanometers. So far, America is in the lead in the chip arms race, but the race is far from over. China has been actively courting ASML to ensure that it has access to the latest and best EUV technology, and its homegrown offerings are getting better by the day. Its goal is to become the one and only country with an entire homegrown chip supply chain, with equipment, designs, and manufactured products all being built in one country. The ramifications of this cannot be overstated. The world runs on computer chips. The fastest AI, the most advanced weapons, they all require raw computing power in order to really work. The country that takes the lead in all of this will enjoy massive advantages, both military and economic, and will own the future of technology. As of right now, no one country enjoys true chip superiority. But China and the US are racing to make sure that they get there. It's a stated aim of both the US and China to do more chip manufacturing in-house. In 2022, Joe Biden signed the CHIPS Act, which, among other things, incentivized chip companies to build in the United States. In an era when countries don't want to share chip technology freely, such incentives are becoming all the more common. But there's just one problem. Both the US and China are reliant on ASML for EUV lithography machines. For all intents and purposes, ASML is the only company building these machines. Other companies have lithography technologies that can do similar things, but EUV specifically is state-of-the-art. According to Tufts business professor Chris Miller, ASML has a monopoly on the fabrication of EUV lithography machines, the most advanced type of lithography equipment that's needed to make every single advanced processor chip that we use today. The machines that they produce, each one of them is among the most complicated devices ever made. What's more, ASML actually has a pretty good chance of maintaining its lead over the competition. It holds 14,000 patents, many in the United States, so competitors can't legally copy its technologies. Even foreign companies need to play ball with US copyright law if they want to access the US market. So, ASML's robust IP portfolio ensures that it stays ahead of the curve. Even more fundamentally, the economics of competing with ASML are pretty tough. The world's chip companies already spend billions of dollars every year researching, designing, and manufacturing their own chips. They also have to work with suppliers and customers to ensure that chips make it to end users' hands. To break into the EUV lithography market, they'd have to invest billions of dollars into R&D just to get to where ASML is now. And by the time they'd done it, ASML would likely be moving on to smaller and smaller wavelengths. In a cyclical industry like semiconductors, it just doesn't pay to reinvent the wheel. So, ASML's robust market position will not be challenged in the near future. What does the future look like? It's an unanswerable question. Hindsight is 20/20, and what looks predictable in the rearview mirror is never so clear in the here and now. It wasn't that long ago that people predicted jetpacks and flying cars would be the leading technologies of the 21st century. Instead, it was smartwatches and social media. Today, technology is at a major turning point. AI is getting ever more intelligent, computers are getting faster, and some think we're approaching a technological singularity in which machines will become sentient and either destroy civilization as we know it, or make it so that human beings never have to work again and live in infinite abundance. Who knows whether these prophecies will come true? Maybe we will get an AI utopia with no famine, war, or hunger. Or maybe we'll get something more like a dystopia marked by autonomous drones and self-driving tanks. Maybe the technologies that are coming will look nothing like either. Or maybe we'll reach a limit past which progress starts to slow down. We just don't know. What we do know is, no matter what happens, ASML's technologies are going to be a part of it. If that's not owning the future, I don't know what is.